What is it they've sent us?
Hope.
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Go to Bolt Fam, it's the director. Chargers fans. It's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a weird one today, dude. A lot of you guys probably saying, Director, why are you smiling? Huh? We lost this game. Another close loss, 24-22 Chargers. This close to tasting victory in one of the biggest upsets of the NFL season. Well, I'll tell you why I'm smiling, man. It feels like a Christmas miracle. The Chargers lost in such a fashion that I am in no way, shape, or form disappointed. We found hope running around that field for the first time in very many weeks, probably in a couple of seasons now. We boosted the draft stock, as well as found, I don't know, man, a vibe, a rhythm, a change of heart for the team, which looked like they gave up on their head coach just 1 week ago to this week. We're all smiles, man. Take a look at 98 over there, man. He's having a good time. Coach on the sidelines having a good time. Chargers fans in my chat having a good time. It really feels like the Chargers, its fans, the organization, the players are all turning a new page after the Brandon Staley era has finally concluded. And honestly, dudes, I think we're going to call this episode oddly perfect because in every single way possible, I think this game shaped up to be the best case scenario for the Chargers in Week 16 to help us next season, as well as to get us back on track in terms of the team, let's say, spirit going into 2024 as well. So before we do kick off, guys, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. You guys want to join the best fantasy platform on the web? Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Newcomers, get in on this Christmas miracle special with Brock Purdy on half a yard. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel with the sponsor. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action. Your Chargers versus Bills post-game report. Again, we're going to call this one the oddly perfect episode. It's going to get weird, but you know what? It's very important to take a look at a perspective of this game because there's going to be a lot of people, I do believe, and I saw this a little bit after the game as well, disappointed that we did drop another game. But honestly, guys, perspective here is everything, and I do think that it helps in terms of bringing some hope and some light and some spirit to your holiday weekend, number one, but number two, for the 2024 season. So first off, I'm going to say in the comments section, Bolt fam, I need a vibe check, man. I need a vibe check from the Bolt fam. How are we feeling in the comments section, man? You guys feeling hope for the first time in forever? You guys feeling depressed by losing another close game? Are you feeling optimistic about the future of the Chargers? You guys let me know in the comments section below. I'm going to tell you guys what I noticed during my time live streaming this game. Of course, we had, 12 to 1,400 Chargers fans in the chat at any given time. It was pretty crazy. I was, first off, very shocked to see the numbers. Because, it depends on how the Chargers are doing that my numbers go up and down. And I was expecting after the Chargers' historic loss last week, definitely out of the postseason at this point, for maybe Chargers fans to be a little less interested. I was wrong, man. You guys showed up in droves, supported my platform, which was definitely shocking to me. But then you take a look at the Chargers fandom at SoFi Stadium, on social media. I read a comment that stood out to me that I think it was actually somebody in my last video. I apologize for not remembering the name. But he said that he was at this game and that Bills fans were shook with how positive the Chargers fans were, with how on fire the Chargers fans were, and with just the overall energy in the Chargers fans, even with the upset going into this game and finding joy in this experience. It really is quite something to witness, man. Chargers fans, for the first time in a couple of seasons now, feel like they're coming out of hibernation. I think a lot of us got used to the day in and day out. It's just another Chargers week. right, with the Brandon Staley era. Kind of get your hopes up. They fall, or the bottom falls out at the last second. We kind of rinse and repeat that over and over and over again. Well, with Brandon Staley gone, I feel like the Chargers fandom is ready for a reset. I'm ready for a reset. I feel reinvigorated. I feel like the post-Staley era is off to a very good start. And honestly, just outside even the vibe of the Chargers fandom, it feels like this is being felt throughout the team as well. And we're going to lead that into one of my first points here of the game. Attaboy GIF is going to be the first segment here, dude. Attaboy GIF. If there was anybody representing the vibe of the Chargers, it was this man on the sideline. If you guys don't know who this is the interim head coach of the Chargers at the moment. After Brandon Staley was let go, they brought in a temporary head coach for the season, and that's this man, Giff Smith. This dude, I don't know if you guys are paying much attention to what he was doing on the sideline, but this man looked like he was having a very good time. There was a point, I think, in the first half where we needed a timeout, and you see Giff. I don't know if he's been dreaming of this for a long time or whatever. This dude goes sprinting, giving his best 40 time on the sideline, trying to grab the attention of the ref. Timeout. He gets the timeout, but then the camera pans to him, and the dude's just laughing, giggling, dude. Like, he's having a fun time leading this Chargers team, knowing that this is probably his only opportunity to do so. He's living it up, man. And that vibe, for me, it rubbed off on me a little bit. I was like, man, this dude's having fun, dude. Like, I can get about that. And then you look at the players. You look at the coaching staff on the sideline. Everybody's all smiles. And I do know that some people don't care. Like, this is a man's sport, you know. There's no room for emotions and smiles and blah, blah, blah. That does have a huge effect on the product that you see on the field. Whether you agree with it or not, I do believe that is a huge, huge case. Because when you take a look at the Chargers last week and you see the vibe, the aura of the team, nobody wanted to play for Brandon Staley. There was even a excerpt from an article saying that nobody's laughing at the dude's jokes anymore. Nobody's happy in practice. And that kind of mentality and that kind of attitude definitely rubbed off on the Chargers play last week with the Raiders, resulting in one of the worst games I've ever seen as a Chargers fan. This week, the vibe was different. Players, as Chargers fans, look reinvigorated. Look like they're having fun again. Like we're getting back to the point of football, man. And I hate to say it because it might take some people off. It does every time I say this. Football is supposed to be fun. Football is entertainment. Football is a feel-good experience for the most part, right? If you allow it to be that for you. And that is the way I've been trying to embrace Chargers football specifically for 10, 15 years now. And I think it's actually even more important for the players to remember this. Because when you start having fun, when you start letting loose, when you start enjoying the process and taking what you've learned throughout the week and applying it and feeling that dopamine hit of execution, I think your performance does improve by quite a bit. And you see it a lot in the NFL. And this week, it really did feel like the Chargers, and I hate to say it like this, but I'm going to say it anyway, by cutting out the cancer of Brandon Staley, it feels like everybody can let their guard down, can breathe, and can have a little bit of fun again. Now, yes, the Chargers have a lot of work to do. We got to get very serious about next season. And of course, a lot of work has to come with the fun as well. But we're off to a very good start at getting this team back in a healthy mental state. Because we were in a very bad mental state for, I'm guessing, at least a season and a half. You guys watch every post-game report. You watch Justin Herbert on the sideline. You watch all these guys who usually have a pretty positive aura about them. Derwin James, Sebastian Joseph Day, who's no longer with us, coaching staff, even Kellen Moore. All these guys just did not seem happy. And I feel like, especially this time of year, we got to find some joy, man. So it's great to see the Chargers finding that attitude again. They went out there. They played hard, man. They played for pride, and they had a good friggin' time, led by this man, Giff Smith. Attaboy, dude. Attaboy. Great first performance by Giff Smith. And ultimately, thank you for helping Chargers fans and the Chargers players have a little bit of fun with this miracle game we call football. At least one more week. Next up, we got to talk about this. You guys want to get a little serious, talk a little business with the Chargers, a little bit of nitty-gritty in terms of let's get serious about how this team can improve this season or next season, however you want to shake it. This season, or this segment called The Rise of More. Now, this was a huge point that I was trying to make in my post-game report with, or I should say my reaction with the Bleacher Report episode, and it's something that I really want to hit home in this video if I can, okay? Kellen Moore looks like a different person. And we're not talking just joy. Yes, he was happy, right? But we're talking in terms of his creativity, his execution, and his results in this game were wildly different than what we've seen almost the entire season. As a matter of fact, the only game that kind of resembles this for me was week 1 versus the Miami Dolphins. That too was a loss, but at the same time, the results looked very, very promising. And it felt like every week after that, the result or his performance started to dwindle, right? His numbers started to go down and down and further down. And honestly, I think it kind of lost the room for a lot of us. A lot of us felt like, maybe this Kellen Moore experiment didn't work out. A lot of us got our hopes way up high that he was going to turn Justin Herbert into the next big thing. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But one game removed from Brandon Staley, we see this kind of adjustment. It kind of really makes me wonder how much micromanaging was going on around the Chargers, because we knew it with the defense was being micromanaged to hell and back. I think all of us knew that. The decision making in terms of coaching, clock management and stuff like that, that certainly was under his control. But how much was he tinkering with the offense? I don't know. How much was he provoking a Kellen Moore and his system? I would think not at all. I would say that's probably Kellen Moore's arena, right? That's his dojo. Let him do his thing. But then why all of a sudden are we seeing an offense led by Easton Stick show us more creativity, more proper execution, and ultimately more results than we've seen even with Justin Herbert all season? No, that's not a trick question to say Stick over Herbert. Absolutely not. It's to say this version of Kellen Moore, this Kellen Moore, looks more like what I signed up for. This resembles the hype that I had at the top of the offseason. Holy crap, Kellen Moore's leading Justin Herbert into the season. And it leads me to believe that Brandon Staley did have a little bit to do with the lack of performance here as well, which is kind of crazy. How crazy it is moving on from a guy like Brandon Staley elevates every part of your team at this point. And maybe the only unit that he didn't tinker with was the special teams, which is why Ryan Ficken was able to kind of get to work there. The Chargers offense looked crazy good this week, man. Easton Stick looked as clinical as possible, man, just surgically taking us down the field, not overcomplicating things at times, showing us some creativity that, yes, was a little complicated, but executed beautifully. I remember that one play where Easton Stick lines up, looks like a tight formation, and then all of a sudden it motions to what looks like a wildcat formation. Easton Stick lines up at receiver. Here comes Austin Ekeler at running back, and we see a beautiful play executed by Austin Ekeler, and it looked awesome. That looked like the Kellen Moore that I signed up for, dude. And that kind of play was not that specifically in terms of craziness, but that kind of creativity I saw throughout the whole game. And more importantly, I saw adjustments throughout the whole game. The Chargers offense looked extremely healthy without Keenan Allen, without Justin Herbert, without Mike Williams. Why is that? And that to me leads me to another conclusion here. What if this is the Kellen Moore that we wanted all along? What do we do now that he's being let loose, that he's cooking? You know what I mean? If we continue to see this for the next 2 weeks, are we all about bringing him back for the 2024 season? If we get a Harbaugh, maybe he does bring in his own OC because Harbaugh tends to like to keep control of the offense anyway. If we get a defensive-minded head coach like a Bill Belichick, a Dan Quinn, do we want to trust more to continue building something with Justin Herbert, who's had a different OC every other season? It does raise a lot of questions for me. But I think in the end, this is a very good sign. Kellen Moore might be finally blossoming into that OC that we're hoping to see at the top of the season. And if we see it for the next 2 weeks, if we continue to see that creativity and this offense continue to thrive under Easton Stick, it's going to open up a lot of possibilities for what I would like to see at least in the 2024 season at OC, depending again what happens with the coach and GM. Next up, guess who gets their flowers? Dicker the kicker, man. Okay, first off, I got to say, extremely pleased with the NFL's decision to air the Dicker the Kicker Pro Bowl ad on national TV. What's great was that, if you guys haven't seen the Dicker the Kicker Pro Bowl ad they put together, probably one of the single best pieces of social media this team has pumped out in the history of the Chargers. It is absolutely fantastic. They aired it, and I got to assume That's going to get this guy a couple of more votes here or there, man. He looked absolutely fantastic, Dicker the kicker. Excuse me, we actually have the wrong photo here. Absolutely fantastic. And I personally, dude, like, I don't know. It's awesome to see that vibe layered on top of what was already a pretty fun game. Now, Dicker, in terms of a kicking perspective, it doesn't get much better than this. And we've said this a couple of times in the past. If you guys were a Chargers fan, 5 years ago or whatever, before Younghoe Koo and before Dustin Hopkins, we were in a very bad way at kicker for a long time. And then here comes this Dicker guy. Tonight, 5 of 5 on field goals, 1 of 1 an extra point. This guy's been absolutely fantastic. I think he ended up breaking a record for the Chargers in terms of consecutive 50-plus field goals made. 50-plus yard field goals made. That's absolutely fantastic, dude. So, first off, Dicker the kicker, congratulations. But he also showed us something very important. This is why having a kicker is so important. And this is why taking your points is so friggin' important. And that's why I was very proud of GIF, because we had moments that felt very familiar in this game where it's like, we're about to go for it. We're not going to get it. We're not going to walk away with points in this drive, are we? No, we took our points. And ultimately, if the Chargers didn't take those 5 field goals, there's no way we take the lead in the fourth quarter. There's no way we take the lead in the first quarter. There's no way that the Chargers stay ahead as long as they did without being smart, taking their points, and getting one of the best kickers in the NFL involved as much as possible. That's why you have Dicker on your team, so you can go up there and put up points, not to show him, on the sideline, hoping to go out there and perform when we once again turn it over on downs on a wild 4th down attempt. But good for Cameron Dicker, man. Good for the team. Good for Giff Smith taking the points and ultimately keeping this Chargers team in this game from start to finish. Now, of course, we did show this photo a second ago. Sticking the landing is this little segment here. This is a pretty important game for Easton Stick, guys. Easton went out there. I think he put up, 230-something total yards, a touchdown on the ground. I think Stick is slowly turning into that backup that we're going to see here for a while. And I know we haven't seen anybody quite like that since, Whitehurst and stuff like that, but I think Easton Stick is slowly coming into his own. He's having a great closing of the season as, we'll say, a tryout for another recent, because of course he doesn't have his contract expires after this season. He doesn't have an extension with us quite yet. I wouldn't mind bringing back Easton Stick, and I thought that maybe his chances would have gone down a little bit because of bringing in Will Greer, who is a familiar quarterback with Kellen Moore. I was feeling that maybe we would see, half Stick, half Greer kind of as a tryout for the backup quarterback position next season. But Easton Stick, the more I watch him play, the more I see him get time with the ones and get familiar with what the Chargers are asking him to do, the more I'm feeling pretty confident in his ability to be the backup for the long term. And at this point, I'm kind of hoping the Chargers give him a multi-year deal. I'm very happy with Easton Stick and very proud of what he was able to accomplish. He executed this offense beautifully this week, and my confidence in him is growing with each and every week. And again, we've got Denver next week. We've got the Chiefs after that. 2 very tough defenses. But then again, so was this one. The Bills shut down Dak Prescott just last week. Here comes Easton Stick, man. Probably the future backup quarterback for the Chargers for a couple more years at least. A very, very good job by Easton Stick. As for Easton's weapons, this little segment here called Shades of Palmer, I think this is actually a little bit of a sad segment as much as it is a good segment, because Josh Palmer, every time he comes back or every time he steps on the field with more responsibility, because we saw this last season as well, it feels like he really is coming into his own, right? And I don't remember who posted on Twitter. It might have been, I don't remember. Somebody said that he's looking a little bit more like Keenan Allen every game. And that is actually not a bad assessment, because Josh Palmer, that clutch factor is growing each and every year too. And I honestly can't, I refuse to believe it's not because a little bit of Keenan is rubbing off on Josh Palmer. I do. I think that completely. And his clutch ability is something that I think the Chargers need to keep kindling going forward. And it's a shame. The reason I say it's almost a sad segment is because it's a shame that he did get hurt. It's a shame that he didn't get to play a majority of the season, because this is a very good receiver, one that could have really helped Justin Herbert, maybe even help keep us in the playoff picture a little bit longer. But if there's one thing I feel pretty good about the Chargers wide receiver room has some big names that we can lean on going forward. Yes, we don't know what the Quentin Johnston era is going to look like in his development. Maybe he, sits behind another guy that we draft next season. I don't know. But I feel very good about Keenan Allen, obviously. And I feel pretty dang good about Josh Palmer maybe being that guy a little bit later, right? To kind of keep that consistency. No one's ever going to beat Keenan Allen, but I feel pretty dang good about what Josh Palmer's putting together and what he's going to be able to provide the team going forward. I like that. Speaking of weapons, Austin Ekeler, is he back? Is he back? Now, I'll say this. I don't think that Austin Ekeler returns with the team next season. I think maybe there was a bit of friction between him and the team this year, even though he was a professional, went out there and did his work. But I do think for the most part, his numbers this season were a bit disappointing. This game, though, and then following 2 games after this, he's going to have an opportunity to kind of build his resume back up a little bit. And he did a pretty good job this week. I don't remember the last time we had an Austin Ekeler game with over 4 yards a carry. He did awesome on the ground this week. Did pretty decent on the through the passing game too. Austin Ekeler looked really good, and I think this is also something you need to factor into the Kellen Moore effect that we saw this week as well. We all know how big a run game is to any offense in the NFL, and Austin Ekeler doing his job and performing to the tune, I think, of like 4.5 yards a carry, 4.2, 4.3, I don't remember, is something that's going to help this team going forward. And ultimately, even if we don't have Austin Ekeler next season, provides another reminder of just how important the position is and that we need to go out there and get somebody pretty reliable for next season. All right? Now, if there is a criticism I had this week in terms of the team and its building, offensive line needs work. Easton Stick ended up getting sacked 5 times. I don't remember how high in the rankings the Buffalo Bills were in terms of sack this season. I don't remember them being very high. But the Chargers need a little bit of help out there, man. And I firmly believe that the Corey Linsley effect and his absence is a big reason why we're seeing what we're seeing. And that the Chargers probably need to go out there and very much so prioritize center next season. I know a lot of people want Powers Johnson of the Oregon Ducks to get drafted by the Chargers, probably in the 2nd or 3rd round. I would imagine he's a high 2nd round pick, which the Chargers would be positioned to attack in the draft. But I do think that center position is so important. It was kind of the glue keeping everything together. The Chargers have some work to do there on that line next season. And it's something that I think this year was very obvious. Outside of like Rashawn Slater, I think even Zion Johnson struggling at times. We got to find out a way to get that line back to some, cohesive play together. As for the defense, couple notes here. Alohi Gilman, I think, is a very, 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 very important thing to push into the front of Chargers' attention this week, because this guy is on a contract season. And he's done nothing since, I would say, the last half of last year, but be amazing, right? Alohi Gilman is a turnover machine this last year. He's been awesome. And in this game alone, he forced a fumble and generated an interception. This dude's an animal. And he's been awesome. And honestly, he's been kind of the answer to the Chargers' prayers at safety, which we desperately needed at the top of the season. Yes, we may still need to go after one, depending on what's going on at the position, but I feel very confident in Alohi Gilman. I would really love to bring him back. He's been exactly what I was hoping for in terms of the Chargers adding more playmakers to the secondary, and he's been a very, very good part of that. As for the defense, going back to the basics seems to very much so have helped them. No secret that Brandon Staley's system and scheme was a bit complicated. I have to imagine that Derek Ansley, the defensive coordinator, kind of went back to basics a little bit here. And we saw a nice result, man. Josh Allen, I think he was held to under 250, which is a pretty big deal. If you're a Chargers fan watching this season in particular, we saw nobody quarterbacks go for 200-300 yards. We saw a 6 touchdown performance by the Raiders the week prior. So holding Josh Allen to what we did, and the Bills ultimately to 24 points, was a big accomplishment for this team. I don't quite think that the defense is at a point where I'm ready for them to take that leap quite yet. I think we do have some work to do. I think Brandon Staley and the underperforming defense this last year shows me that the defense is something that we need to continue building and maybe make some moves in order to improve, because it's not what we were hoping it would be in terms of like a top 10 unit. Not at all. And I think maybe making some moves there is going to be an intelligent move to continue strengthening that unit. It's not where we were hoping it to be, but I think it's not too late to move some pieces around and find some more success there. So finally, to wrap up this video, draft stock. As of recording this video, the Chargers do have the number 5 pick. I think we're rooting for like the Washington Commanders, the Tennessee Titans, the New York Jets. I think the Commanders and Jets are playing each other, in which case I think we want the Jets to win, because I think, yes, if we win, the Commanders do give us a little bit more hope of climbing inside the top 5, like 4 or 3, but ultimately I think that they are going to lose out and we would be stuck at 5 anyway. So having the Jets lose would guarantee us, or at least give us a better odds of sticking inside that top 6, top 5 pick. Anyway, long story short, this is why this was a very oddly perfect week. The Chargers not only found a lot of success and momentum as a team and kind of turned over a new leaf in terms of their energy and aura, but we also were able to maintain very positive draft stock going into next season, which is very, very hard to do. And that puts us in a very unique position. This last segment here, a unique position. Now, the last I heard about Jim Harbaugh, the latest news I heard, and this was very, very closely following the news that the Chargers were interested in Jim Harbaugh. The Michigan Wolverines went and offered him, I think, a 10-year, $125 million contract, which is pretty significant, I'm not going to lie. But it came with the clause that he cannot pursue an NFL job if he signs that contract. And, of course, he hasn't signed that contract yet. And that might be a big deal. But I think in the end, this is Jim Harbaugh playing strategist once again. This dude is brilliant, right? I think he's pitting the Chargers and the Wolverines against each other at this point, leveraging both sides, saying, hey, man, the Wolverines are opening up their pocketbook. Are the Chargers going to open up theirs? And then on the other side, hey, the Chargers are going to open up their pocketbook. Are you going to open up yours? And in the end, I think the money side of things for Jim Harbaugh is going to turn out just the way he wants. I think the deciding factor whether or not he stays in Michigan is going to be whether or not the NCAA wants to play ball with him. The NCAA is really, really making life difficult for Jim Harbaugh, and that's something that's not in his control. And if it ends up pushing him out of the college ball completely, then I think he comes to the Chargers. And right now, a lot of people are thinking that that's going to be the situation. But what's really sweetening the pot every single week that Jim Harbaugh monitors the Chargers in this opportunity is the fact that he's not only going to have a top 5 quarterback in the league in Justin Herbert, but now possibly a top 5 pick, which is a very, very big deal in a season where I'm going to say we have one of the better drafts I've seen in a long time. This draft class looks very strong, and to have such firepower under your control with Justin Herbert, I think it makes the job even more attractive for a guy like Jim Harbaugh. Well, guys, that's going to do it for me. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so glad that the Chargers were able to pick up the mood of Chargers fans just before the holidays kicked off here. Enjoy your time with your families, guys. Get excited about the season and open up the gift of I don't know, hype, man. Open up the gift of optimism once again, because this Chargers team is turning over a new leaf, and it really does feel like that hope factor is returned after the longest time. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll catch you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and Merry friggin' Christmas, you filthy animals.
Action!